You are tuning in for another great episode of the 1946 podcast
The Culture Shift Tour.
with your host, Brent Roberts.
And I'm Sharon Roggio. We have to talk about our housing for Colorado Springs because that's an amazing story.
So around at the end of like every event we did, we'd let people know like, hey, we just had to pay for this expense, for that expense to fill the tank. We're looking for housing here. Does anybody know someone? Can anybody gift us here, there, the other on the mic? And we get flooded with incredible gifts, including my left pocket always becoming the donation bin for cash.
To help fill that $170 per gallon, not gallon.
So tell them who came up to you at the end of that.
Yeah, so, people come up after the Q&A, and they'll say, thank you for the movie, or maybe they'll say things like, I'm still not there yet, or I might be more in line with your dad, and they might not agree, but they're asking good questions, and they're engaging. So it's really cool to see the response of people come up afterward. And this couple came up, and I didn't really know their story. I don't know anything about them. And they really loved the film. And the man just seemed really into it. But again, I didn't know anything about their story. Well, the next day, the wife was desperate to get a hold of us because she emailed us. I think she emailed them my personal email too, she found, and she DM'd us.
She was super sleuth.
And wanted to share the story of first her shock and surprise that not only her husband came to the event, but then came up to talk about the event afterward. But then much to her surprise the next morning at breakfast was like, I really want to help that 1946 team. Now, this man is not affirming. This was very much out of his comfort zone to come to an event like this. And we are now living rent free in this person's head because we're impacted. And that's what we were doing. We're impacting people. And so it's resonating. And in a way where what the movie does is just kind of like lays the groundwork with good journalistic academic work to plant the seeds for you to want to go home and do more work and learn a little bit more about this. And this man looked at his wife at breakfast and said, I want to help the team. How much do you think it is to sponsor them for the next city? And so I wake up to this message and I was like, well, I already have a house picked out.
Yeah.
And it was $1,000 and they gave us $1,000 and bought this beautiful house with a hot tub that we got in Colorado, where we finally got into some cool weather because it was hot the whole way there, all the way like hot.
Yeah. It was perfect weather. The Colorado weather was bliss. And that hot tub, that was a gift from the gods.
So thank you
from the heavens
to our wonderful. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No,
I wanted to thank our donors who want to remain anonymous for obvious reasons. But what an amazing story for them to gift us that, and we'll have to follow up with them and see how they're doing. So I'll do a one-on-one for sure, and then contact them. All right, y'all. Just a quick reminder: this is a pickup from episode 8, part 1. We had so much to cover, we had to split it. Paul is still with us as we dive into our time on the tour in Colorado Springs.
Well, moving on, we left Springfield, get you out of there, got us out of there early in the morning again.
By the way, on southern Missouri,
Let's see where we are.
I did find out that Chapel Roan is also from there.
Oh, really?
She's from just outside of Springfield, like I am.
Brad Pitt,
I
Chapel.
figured out who that is. That's like a pop star, right?
Yeah, you didn't know who Chapel Roan was.
Wait, no lies. So this whole thing that's going on right now with like Chapel has been, I had no idea. Literally, so like Chapel Roan came all up my feet. I'm like, who is this person?
We've been seeing it since Temecula.
And then I see
Pink Pony Club, all those
Go
miles.
to YouTube and search Red Wine Supernova. You'll be hooked forever.
people in the crowd.
Yeah.
Y'all, I've heard the songs. Okay, I'm that person. That's why we need the Gen Z. Okay, so anyway, this was another one of our long journeys because we talked about the long one, the Phoenix to
Oklahoma.
So this one was our second to longest.
It wasn't the longest, but it was the longest in many ways.
Yeah, one that also the mountains. We have to consider.
Oh, because we crossed Kansas.
Western Kansas. Holy crap.
We love you, Kansans. But Kansas, that drive.
So nothing against Kansas.
No, but that drive was a long one. And
Well, they're just like you say, God bless you, Kansas, but there is nothing in Western Kansas. And you just drive and drive and drive.
That was a
and drive,
long
and
state to
there's
cross.
Nothing.
What's after Kansas?
Colorado.
Oh, we loved Colorado.
The weather
Beautiful.
was just so perfect.
It was so pretty.
And a spiritual experience landing at the Olive Garden where we all had Alfredo in our
This
veins.
guy loves the Olive Garden like no human being ever.
Remember when Brent was like, hey, help, to every crowd? Well, in Temecula, the first crowd, this is the only time we got gift cards, but we ended up getting 3 gift cards in Temecula, 2 $15 Target cards, which was wonderful.
Thank you, Target.
We love it. Thank you. Yes, very much. Very helpful to feed some craft service for the crew. And a $40 or $60 gift card to Olive Garden.
Whoever you are,
It was very random, but also that I'm like, great, we got to go to Olive Garden.
Yeah.
Here I am plugging Olive Garden, but I'll tell you what. Do not tell my Italian fiance that we ate.
keep it a secret, but it's a secret our hearts loved.
I'm whispering all of you
and
who
then-
are on the audio.
They're not a sponsor.
We're not allowed to say they are not, and I don't think they'd approve this message.
No.
Olive Garden
I'll tell you what.
is eating Italian like Taco Bell is eating Mexican.
But it was fun. It was memorable.
Yeah.
We did have a fun time.
It was
Yeah.
glorious.
Here, I go to, in Olive Garden's defense, the one thing that was wonderful is it had a circular table. I love those tables, especially when you have a group of 6 or 8 or 10, because then you can see everybody
Yeah.
and you can actually have a conversation at dinner. So that was a really nice time for us to have a dinner together as a crew.
It was good sitting down with all of us to just see our faces and say, how are we doing? Exhausted at this point, and
Because we're almost at the end of our journey. Yeah. Listen, Colorado was great, but we did pick it because to focus on the family.
Yeah.
And then that also leads us into our community leader for that, which was Amber Cantorna-Wylde, who is a daughter of a Focus on the Family executive.
I think the creator of Adventures in Odyssey.
yeah, her dad.
That's her dad. Yeah. So
That's wild.
so we do hear a little bit about her story, which we can maybe share right now.
Yeah, let's hear from her.
All right, let's do it.
My name is Amber Cantorna-Wylde. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado, where I am an LGBTQ author, advocate, and consultant. I did not know when I was a kid that I was gay, partially because I was not exposed to any kind of diversity. Everybody looked and believed and thought exactly like we did. So our world was very straight. Our world was very white. It was very Christian. And so I did not have that exposure or even that vocabulary to understand that I was gay. And that was my world, the world of Focus on the Family, the world of Adventures in Odyssey, the world of James Dobson, the world of evangelicalism and Christian nationalism. Although we, of course, didn't use those terms, that was very much what influenced my upbringing and my understanding of the world. My coming out experience was very tumultuous, as you would expect it to be. My father is Dave Arnold, the executive producer of Adventures in Odyssey at Focus on the Family. And so that had huge repercussions in my family and, as you would believe, in the work that he does. And so there was a lot of trying to hide it under the rug for the sake of his reputation. When I had my very first girlfriend and my parents found out about that, they said, Amber, don't you ever tell anybody about this, because if you do, it will ruin your reputation forever. And so I hid it under the rug and I didn't tell anybody, and I suffered in silence. And that spiral took me down depression and self-harm and suicidal ideations to the very bottom, where I had nobody to talk to because everybody was in that same world exactly like me. I think so much of the rejection that we experience, or when they say your life is going to be so hard as a queer person, if families were to accept queer people, it wouldn't be so hard. They would be celebrated, they would be loved, they would be embraced. Nothing would have to change. And we see statistics that say that queer people are 8 times more likely to attempt suicide if they are rejected by their family. And it only takes one accepting or affirming adult in the life of a LGBTQ young person to reduce that suicide risk by 40%. The first person for me was when I finally reached out to what I found to be my first affirming pastor. And I was at the end of my rope and I did not know what else to do. And I sit down to my computer and I typed in, gay churches, Colorado, because I didn't know what else to do. And the closest thing I could find that kind of aligned with my evangelical upbringing was like 70 miles away in Denver. And I reached out to this pastor and I just poured out my heart. And in 2.5 hours, he responded with the most heartfelt response saying, please come. I will introduce you to people. I will have people take you to lunch. Just please come. And that first experience in an affirming faith community, I think, is truly what gave me permission to start loving myself. And in the end, really helped save my life after I came out. When I came out, it was very tragic from the very beginning. Just a whole 180. It's like my life was flipped upside down. My parents compared me to murderers and to pedophiles. They said, we feel like you've died. How dare you do this to our family? You're so selfish. And they took away my keys to the house. And we had about 1.5 or 2 years of just very strained contact, going from, of course, this very close focus on the family who did everything together, to this complete opposite. And eventually, a line was just drawn in the sand, and we haven't spoken since, and that's been over 10 years.
Well, I'm glad you're still here.
Thank you. I'm glad to still be here. You know, I think every queer child wants to hear that they are loved and they are celebrated, not in spite of who they are, but because of who they are. And I was taught this unconditional love of God that didn't really exist in my family. It came with conditions, it came with strings attached. And I think every queer person just wants to hear that you are loved and you are seen and you are celebrated and you are affirmed. I started telling my story and really quickly realized that it's not just my story, that this is the story of hundreds and thousands of queer people all over the nation and around the world, and that your father does not have to work at Focus on the Family for this to be your story. And so that really propelled me into doing more work for advocacy, helping queer people of faith come out, especially those from conservative faith backgrounds. Loving who you are is still the best choice you can make. Living in a world where you have to hide who you are, where you have to suppress that to please others, is so toxic, and it just eats away at you. Set those boundaries with the non-affirming people, because that really affects your mental health. And the more that you can set boundaries around that and include and infiltrate affirming people into your world, then it just becomes a normal part of your life like everybody else.
What's the worst Focus on the Family video you ever seen?
Well, I mean, in my book, Out of Focus, I talk about Dobson, and I talk about some of the things that he has said that is just um, so, like, technically wrong. Like, he will say, you know, the B in LGBT, that's orgies, and that's this and that, and like, he's creating yet another stereotype that is so untrue. And the things that they have said and done to program children to believe certain ways that then are raising up and becoming, lawmakers. And that's exactly what they want, right? That's exactly what they're trying to do. But the harm that is doing, and the brainwashing, and the toxicity that is just embedded, not only for those of us that are queer, but for those who are just part of this evangelical system, I think is doing so much damage that those in it can't even see. They can't even see what it's doing. In this political time frame, I have felt hopeless for quite some time, because it's been rough. We see LGBTQ rights being taken away. We see trans healthcare being attacked. We see all these things happening that are just taking away our most basic human rights, and not feeling safe to exist in the world as we are. And I think the most hopeful I've been been in these last few weeks, as we've seen Kamala Harris rise to the top, and seen the country rally around, and seen women and people of color and queer people and everybody start to rise up like this is the hope that we've been waiting for. I think it's easy for people who vote against LGBTQ rights to think that it's this thing far out there that doesn't affect them. It's this policy, it's this thing that they're supposed to be against, until they realize that it's their cousin or their sibling or their child. And then it hits very close to home. And I think for a lot of people, that creates the change. And then you have people like my parents who are so deep in it, that even that is not enough. That they are so convinced that God has set out that they have to disown their daughter in order to be loved by God or in order to make it to heaven. And my hope is that as we continue to change these narratives, and we continue to tell our stories, that it will filter out to where people can see a more expansive view of God, a more expansive and inclusive and diverse, beautiful world where everyone can exist and everyone can be loved and everyone has a place in the family of God.
What was your empowering album when you were on their coming out journey? What music were you?
I was listening to Pink's Perfect on repeat all the time. That was my one to go to. Don't you ever believe that you're not perfect.
Insane that so much that I grew up on from Dr. James Dobson, videos about purity and all the things. I mean, I was spoon-fed that stuff growing up.
Oh, yeah,
when I
my
first became a
parents-
Christian.
Dobson. It's like,
Yeah.
gospel.
And to hear her testimony of her journey growing up in that life and coming out with her partner and seeing her travels now, it's such a beautiful story, Amber. And so grateful for that showing up with us and Sharon. That's beautiful and powerful to know that even in such a giant global community like that, there we are.
Yeah, and Amber's an author, so definitely going to plug Amber's book and check out Amber's website in the show notes and for more information, because really useful stuff.
So one of the things this season has done for me and my spouse is so much has been exposed, which is a good thing in evangelical Christianity, including the foundational racism of it all. And that focus on the family really is founded upon the idea of we need to get white people having more babies, or else those people of color are going to take over the country. And that really was a foundational premise of James Dobson and what he was working toward, what he was mentored to do, and focus on the family. And some of the political organizations that it launched was all about let's get white people, and this idea of the traditional family, let's legislate white people having more babies. So when you hear the things that some of the candidates say these days about childless women and all of these things, it's coming out of this traditional family teaching. And the irony is Jesus would have never known a family with a mom and dad and 2.3 kids and a dog and a white picket fence, because they all lived communally. And so that has been something that's been shocking for me to learn, but good that it's been exposed. And I hope we continue to grow and say, that's not okay.
I think it's beautiful the more people who are sharing their stories are brave enough to come out and share their stories. And honestly, like with technology, and as Lindsay said in our Birmingham talk, the information's there, and we're talking and sharing information with each other, and we can look up this information. And so we have access to it. And it's just wonderful that things are starting to come to light.
And the anti-gay message from Focus on the Family, when the shooting happened in the nightclub in Colorado, somebody spray painted "There's blood on your hands" on the Focus on the Family sign. And I'm not for doing those kind of things, but it was a little poetic that somebody did that.
Well, it's Daniel Carlslake's documentary for The Bible Tells Me So.
Yeah.
One of the main characters is going up in opposition against Focus on the Family to say, hey, I'm a gay Christian, and what you're telling my family is so incredibly harmful to my family. It's not love and it's not family at all.
Yeah. Well, in that scene in For the Bible Tells Me So, which is a great movie, if you haven't seen For the Bible Tells Me So by Dan Carslake, definitely rent that film. But he is brave enough to start an LGBTQ hub in his high school, come out in high school, talk about it, and it stirred up controversy. And then his parents were brave enough, who were lawyers, to stand with him. And then the three of them went to go deliver a letter to Dr. Dobson. And they wouldn't allow them to deliver this letter. That's all they wanted to do, was deliver a letter. And this is how we feel. This is who we are. And the Focus on the Family people refused to allow them on the property. It was private property. It was a big ordeal. And they said, if you cross this property, you will be arrested. And the three of them, father, mother, and son, were arrested in protest of just wanting to speak their truth.
And they're such freedom people, right?
It's
Such freedom.
it's remarkable. It's really it's wild. I just put myself, or I think about those situations, and I'm like, what is the WJD? No,
WWJD.
right? You know, what would Jesus do? Like, it's wild.
That idea of the gay Christian, one of the things I love about 1946, the movie, is it was played in the Real Pride Festival in our town of Fresno. And right before your film, there was a documentary about the one openly gay Muslim imam in the world who's out of South Africa. And at the end of that movie, there's a whole series of people saying, my name is such and such, and I'm a gay Muslim. And just one after the other. And then we play 1946, the movie, and at the end it's, I'm so-and-so, and I'm a gay Christian, and you can be a gay Christian. And I just thought it was so beautiful how those two films were stacked together and finished with that same theme. I love.
And what's the name of that film again?
I wish I knew it off the top of my head now that I said
that
it.
out.
But
Okay.
The notes,
yeah.
And yeah, so we'll put the name of that. We'll put that film in the show notes for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the church we were at, Vista Grand community there in Colorado Springs, Reverend Mallory, Pastor Mallory, was so cool, doing great things there on the ground with her congregation and active in so many ministries. And the people who also came and...
By the way, sorry to interrupt. Wasn't it amazing how many women pastors we met? I just love
just
it.
going to go there.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I
Cut
this
you off.
journey. No, like how many women in ministry?
I loved it.
The women just standing up to lead the way. Let women lead is the theme of this trip, was just like watching how many beautiful and powerful women stood up and are standing out and are speaking out in love for this story, for this message, from behind the camera, in front of the camera, and in the pulpit, behind the scenes. And Reverend Mallory is definitely one of those powerful women. We did a cool interview with her, and I want to share a little bit of it right now.
I'm the pastor at Vista Grande Community Church, United Church of Christ. My name is Reverend Mallory Everhart. My pronouns are she, her. My t-shirt says it all. I am a queer clergy person here in Colorado Springs. So I grew up in what I call high church evangelicalism. So I grew up in a very conservative form of Lutheranism. So they're actually Calvinist repackaged, but don't tell them that. But the things that we really like to fight about were infant baptism. We were infant baptizers, and whether or not you used organs in church or not. So a lot of the same cultural value sets, but our music wasn't as good. My coming out was pretty complicated with my family. So my mom was pretty, I'll say, conflict avoidant. And so she asked my brother if it was true. So we later we had a conversation about it, and she was as accepting as she could have been at the time. But I found out from my brother that she was kind of verifying facts that I'd actually put on social media. So instead of talking to me directly about it, she kind of went the roundabout way. I came of age when marriage equality was passed, right? Like there was this like golden moment where it felt like it was okay to be out, like this was socially acceptable. There was, that it was celebrated. And I'm recognizing that was just like basically this like 10-year period, basically where this movement was happening. Because just before that, we had the AIDS crisis and people who were fighting for their rights in their lives and even being able to visit each other in the hospital. I mean, like those rights are like people are still alive who lived through that, right? That's not ancient history. And then I came of age, in my teen years and early 20s, like this is when marriage equality is happening. I'm like, okay, all right, like there's room for this. Only to watch the rubber man just like snap back, and we have all of this violent rhetoric, and it is so baffling to me how we went from this like pinnacle of celebration to now I'm genuinely afraid that like myself and my friends, like we have to think about our safety and security walking down the street together. The grief in Colorado Springs has been really palpable, especially in the last year and a half, almost 2 years. So on almost at midnight on November 19th into 20th, which would have been Trans Day of Remembrance, someone came into one of our only local queer bars and shot so many people. Over 20 people were shot, over 50 people were affected, and 5 people died. And I was one of the first spiritual care people to be on the ground, so I chaplained the memorial. The Billy Graham Rapid Response Team had decided that right in the heart of queer pain was the place that they should set up and minister to people, and to find out that they had one-day seminar on how to be a chaplain. They have these like nice vests that say chaplain on them. And if you know anything about actual chaplain credentialing, it's a 3-year master's degree and like multiple, at least 500-hour clinical units to be a board certified chaplain. So someone who has 8 hours of training compared to just like so much study, it was just unconscionable to me. And I heard them praying in the name of Jesus, like at the site. And I'm like, oh my gosh, do you know where you are? Like, do you know how evangelicalism specifically, like that this is a bastion of it, that like the name that you have on your vest is going to be triggering to some people. And you think that you are the best best person to minister to this from out of town, not knowing the context to come in. And I said, not on my watch. So the progressive clergy here in Colorado Springs, we're a pretty close-knit bunch, and there's the folks that I would trust to give affirming care to the mourners who would be there at the memorial site. And I just called my friends and I said, hey, look, this is what's happening. I don't want to fight with them. They're going to do what they're going to do. Like, but we need to offer another alternative so that people know that they're safe and that they are known by people in their city. So it wound up being a huge, like, statewide, and even some folks from Wyoming came down to chaplain the site. We chaplained it for 12 days, from like 7 in the morning to 9 at night, where we were just there to be an affirming presence and offer spiritual care and say, hey, look, we understand how Christian nationalism and Christian homophobia is a big piece of this, but if you need spiritual care, like someone to be here with you, to grieve with you, we're here for that. And it was one of the most challenging and rewarding experiences of my life. I have been welcomed into the survivor circles by, so I've made friends with people who survived that shooting, and they have placed trust in me because we kept showing up and we kept being humble about what we had to offer, to say, hey, look, we know that religion, especially in this town, is a really difficult prospect, but we're here for you. What can we do for you? And when we kept showing up, and when they recognized me as a queer person myself, they're like, okay, maybe we can trust this one. Maybe we can trust this one. And it has been a source of actually resilience in this city, even as we are grieving the lives of the 5 people who were lost. If I could say anything to someone still like voting against like LGBT rights, like you're voting against me, you're voting against everyone I love. My question is, what are you so afraid of? What do you see in us that makes you want to squash out our joy? Why are you so afraid of a world where we get to breathe free, where we get to dance, where we get to love? Like, why is that so scary? Because if they can answer that, I think it would shift how they thought about things. But I think they're not in touch with how terrified they actually are, and responding deeply to that terror with control. But yeah, what are you so afraid of? If we actually put the principles of Jesus in place, yeah, we would be a Christian nation, right? Like because I think fundamentally what Jesus did in his ministry is he offered people back their humanity. The system took it from them and he said, I see you. There are so many instances in scripture where there's this little throwaway sentence that it's Jesus looked at the person, or in Acts, Peter and John looked at the person by the beautiful gate, and it was there in that, like, I see you as a person, I see you hurting, and it changes it from an object to an I-thou relationship. Like, I see you and I want you to be well. And it changes everything. And my fundamental question for me and my congregation is like, what if it doesn't have to be this way? What can we imagine? What could we enact? There's so much that feels beyond our imagination. There's so much that's like, this is just how it is, right? And it's like, can we just get creative? Can we just like actually place human thriving at the center of our governance? Like, what would that do? It would change everything. That if we actually placed people over profit, if we placed like healing over punishment, like it would fundamentally change everything. And I hope that for us more than anything.
just such a joyful, impactful message she brings. And I love that she offered us at the event security outside.
Oh, yeah, that was wonderful.
The Parasol Patrol.
Parasol Patrol.
Who were just a bright, beautiful bunch of people standing out there with umbrellas in all kinds of colors.
Ready to go, just in case. Yep.
The Parasol Patrol puts themselves as a brigade or a blockage between any kind of protest going on and the people who would be affected by it at pride parades and different things. And
to keep it a safe space.
Yes.
Yep.
So beautiful and necessary. The church that I go to here in Los Angeles, we're bringing up families and kids, and our pastor, we all had, instead of having church, we came down to Los Angeles Pride to just show support, be part of the parade, and we ended up a couple years ago right on the corner where the protesters were, and the pastor's son watched all that, and he came back to his dad. He's like, what is that? That's not love, that's not Jesus. And so it was just such a mind-blowing thing of what a church here in Los Angeles is doing, raising a whole new generation to show inclusion and love of every part of our community, that the kids are having to say, what is that? That's not God's love, and that a child knows that. But that's kind of so cool that security team acts as a buffer between hatred and love.
I'm so glad that there are organizations like them and Free Mom Hugs and Mama Bears who are working with us, and PFLAG and all the other wonderful organizations out there. But one day I do hope that they go away and we don't need this. But I think we have a long journey ahead of us. We all know this is a marathon, not a sprint. And we all know that things are not going to change overnight. But they do change by us continuing to have these conversations, to use our voice, to get involved locally, which is the part of what we were doing with this whole missions trip, and to speak up when we need to and protect when we need to. And eventually things will change. And I do have faith in the next generations to be able to be bold and say no and fight back.
To the church. Into our country, say that's not love.
Our leaders, yep, that's not love.
That a woman needs security to go into an abortion clinic, or in
to
our
make
town,
her own decisions.
Yeah, in our city, there was a protest of a church that was trying to move into the arts district that is the perennial gay area of our community, and the Proud Boys came in to try to disrupt the protest. And the media went to the pastor of the church and said, are you okay with the Proud Boys saying they're defending your church? And he would not disavow the Proud Boys. And it's just like, guys, this Jesus were incarnate would not do this. This would not be him. He would say, no, absolutely not. That is not us. And that's how we've just gotten so far off track with my religion, and why I finally had to say, I cannot be silent about this anymore. And we've got to stand up and say, that's not okay. That is not Christian.
Yeah.
That is something else.
That's this whole conversation.
Yeah.
Of what does it mean to be Christian again? What does it mean to be American again? And moving forward and not going back to these old washed out definitions of things, but in a newness that embraces difference and change and growth. I think is why we're having these kind of conversations.
It's one of the things I said in my presentation is like, can you imagine God telling Jesus, okay, Jesus, you're going to earth to be the perfect representation of heaven. And all we care about is banning abortion and condemning gay people. So I want you to go to earth and mention those two issues. Never. Jesus never mentions either of those issues in all of the Gospels. These are not things that heaven is focused on. They are focused on loving your neighbor as yourself. And that includes loving yourself so this heavenly love can flow through you to others. And that then starts to solve the sin of violating relationship. And then we don't have some of these problems. I'm fully convinced of that. And so all of this stuff we see happening to try to take over government and control women and pass Christian laws, none of that is reflected in the story of Jesus in any way whatsoever.
Well, we can't end this episode without talking about my favorite part of Colorado Springs, because this is at the end of our tour. And so my girlfriend, now fiance, yes, I've already dropped some spoilers throughout this whole season without everyone really knowing, but we'll get to the proposal episode, which Diana did not know about, but my fiance lives in London. And so we knew she was going to come at the end of the trip to spend a couple days with us, and then we were going to take a vacation. But she had no idea what we were planning.
That first welcome was so cute. We were all in the RV like kids, just looking out the window, watching you two greet each other.
We only get to see each other every 5 to 6 weeks, if that, and sometimes less, sometimes more. If I'm in Europe, or I plan, I just happen to have work in London this week, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was wonderful, and so we'll get to meet her over the next couple episodes. Yay.
Makes me really happy.
She's Italian first, and also British, and she lives in London.
She's such a perfect pairing for Rocky's high energy.
She has high energy too, but in a different way.
It's a calm, cool, collected vibe that just Diana's a good match.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super fun to see her and be in on the secret and know it was coming. It was
speaking of the secret,
great fun.
So when y'all were interviewing Mallory, and the pastor at the church, and you had just given your speech, so you're upstairs watching and everything, and we were downstairs interviewing people, and Diana's like kind of hanging out, and I'm trying to get footage ready together for Elliot to do the surprise video that we were putting together for the proposal video that we were making, and I didn't have time to finish, and then she's there, and I'm like, I need to finish, and she's like, there, and I'm like, I can't finish when she's sitting next to me. So at one point she's like, I'm going to go upstairs and just watch a little bit. I'm like, oh, great. That's great. That's a great idea. And then later we talked about it, and she was like, I was wondering why you were so quick to just be like, okay, go, like I just got here. As soon as she went upstairs, I was like, guys, yes, I can finish my work and gather photos for the video, which we'll share in an upcoming episode. So yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Colorado was a beautiful stop. 3 of us got to go hiking Guard of the Gods. And being outdoors and seeing your love there and the people and the stories there, it was one for the books. So thank you, Colorado Springs, and thank all of you for tuning in yet again to another episode of the 1946 podcast, sticking with us. You are not going to want to miss our next upcoming episodes, which are made possible by our incredible sponsors.
Well, and we have to say thank you to Unconventional Pastor Paul for being here. Thank you so much for taking the drive down from Fresno.
Oh, it was my pleasure. And to see all the gang again was just the best. Love you guys so much.
I hate to break it to you, but tonight we're not going out for Olive Garden.
Boo.
We're going to get some local good eats in the NoHo, which would be North Hollywood.
If only we could DoorDash Rusty Pelican from Mississippi. If only.
Throwback.
Thank you, guys. Love you more than you know.
Thank you. Love you. Oh, wait, before we go, we got to do one more thing. Runway. Can we see the full outfit?
The full outfit?
Yeah, can you stand up? Can we get a shot? We need the shoes. We need a little hip action.
And by the naked mannequin?
We already discussed that. No, there's a bathing suit on under there. We've already discussed it. There's nothing wrong with them. Sorry, that's why I wanted
I've
to
got
wait
the
till
heels
end.
on today,
Okay.
so yes.
Yes, we got the heels. We got the stripes. We got the love. We got the earrings.
Yes. And the hair is almost getting there. We're
I
almost
love
getting
it.
there.
You're going to keep growing it out?
We got to get it so it comes down here.
Wonderful. Okay, well, keep us posted on that.
Yes, I will.
I love it.
Updated photos. Love being here.
Let's
Thank
go
you.
get some food. Love you guys. Thank you to our sponsors, makingthingsright.org, for your generous donation and helping us produce this podcast. And to Uncut Studios in downtown Los Angeles. Step into a studio unlike any other. To learn more, follow them at Uncut Studios DTLA on Instagram.
This episode is dedicated the life and legacy of Imam Muhsin Hendricks, South African trailblazer, scholar, and founder of the Inner Circle and Masjidul Ghurba, a sanctuary for LGBTQ plus Muslims. The film Paul referred to earlier in the episode, The Radical, courageously spotlighted Muhsin's story. We are heartbroken to share that Muhsin was recently killed in an ambush near Gqeberha. His death is a devastating loss, not just to the queer Muslim community, but to the world. May this episode carry forward the light and courage Muhsin brought to so many.